Ah, okay. Sure thing.
Recording in progress.
Okay, I'd like to call the Planning Commission meeting of May 12th, 2025 to order. And Kay, can we get the roll?
Commissioner LaSalle,
Here.
Commissioner Schlagenhofer,
Here.
Commissioner Stoll,
Here.
Commissioner Meidig,
Here.
Commissioner Laws,
Here.
Vice Chair Dole,
Here.
Chair Espy.
Here. Two sets of minutes tonight. And can we have the approval of the minutes then? Is there any comments on the minutes that we have reviewed? Hearing none, can we have a motion? We should probably make a motion on each set of minutes.
Separately?
Can we do them together?
We can do them
Okay,
together.
let's do them together.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of 4/14 for the work session and the regular meeting.
I'll second those.
Motion made and seconded. Can we have a vote?
Commissioner LaSalle. Aye. Commissioner Schlagenhofer,
Aye.
Commissioner Stoll,
Aye.
Commissioner Meidig,
Aye.
Commissioner Laws,
Aye.
Vice Chair Dole,
Aye.
Chair Espy.
Aye. So this is the time of the public hearing where we are entertaining any public comments that are unrelated to anything that's on the agenda this evening. Is there anyone that would like to make a public comment? Hearing none, we will go to the public hearings. We have GLUA 2502, LEG 2501, legislative update to the Parks Master Plan and ancillary document to the OC 2040 Comprehensive Plan.
You want to read the legislative preamble? That'd be great.
I'll go ahead and launch right into that. Okay. So a public hearing on a legislative application is scheduled for tonight, and our role is to conduct the public hearing and to make decisions about the matter before us. In making those decisions, we must apply applicable codes and laws and not vary from the change of those laws or codes. Legislative actions involve the adoption or amendment of the city's land use regulations, comprehensive plan maps, inventories, and other policy documents that affect the entire city or large portions of it. Legislative actions which affect the land use shall begin with public hearing before the Planning Commission. A staff report has been prepared for this application and has been made available to the public 7 days before the first public hearing. The staff report identifies the approval criteria that apply to each of the proposals, and staff has analyzed the criteria and which are contained in the staff report. Upon recommendation of the Planning Commission on a legislative action, the City Commission shall hold at least one public hearing on the proposal. Any interested person may provide written or oral testimony on the proposal or at or prior to the hearing. At the conclusion of the hearing, the City Commission may adopt, modify, or reject the legislative proposal, or it may remand the matter to the Planning Commission for further consideration. If the decision is to adopt at least one form of the proposal and thereby amend the city's land use regulations, comprehensive plan, official zoning maps, or some component of any of these documents, the City Commission decision shall be enacted as an ordinance. Public testimony will be called on in order that it was requested. If you wish to testify in person, please fill out a speaker card available at the back of the room. And if you wish to testify virtually, you will be called either from the request to speak, from a request to speak, email to the city staff in advance of this meeting, or by raising your virtual or physical hand when I ask if there are others in the audience who would like to participate. For the public record, please begin all testimony stating your name, city of residence, and if you would like to receive a copy of the notice of decision, please state your mailing address or email address. Testimony and evidence should be directed toward the applicable approval criteria. If you believe other criteria apply, In addition to those addressed in the staff report, identify and discuss those criteria and explain how and why you believe they apply to the application that is under consideration this evening. Any person may submit written material while the public record is open on each application. Any written materials received by city staff during the time period in which the record is open will be placed in the record. Written materials submitted during the public hearing must be presented to the city staff in order to become part of the record. If a person intends for a PowerPoint presentation, report, picture, or other exhibits to be used in their oral testimony to be placed in the record, copies must be submitted to city staff while the record is open, and if they are not given to staff, they will not be included in the record. Any person wishing a continuance to present additional evidence and testimony to keep the record open to respond to new evidence must make that request before the public testimony portion of before the initial public hearing is closed. And I think we're ready for the staff report now.
All right. Thank you, Chair Espy and Planning Commission. I have about 5 or 6 process slides tonight, and then I'll hand it over to our Parks Department with Scott Archer and Tom Kitchender to kind of talk through the content of the document.
Okay.
You can look at the screen at the PowerPoint, and then you also have hard copies on your dais for you. So the legislative, there we go. Can you advance? Next slide. Yeah, thank you. The Parks Master Plan is adopted through the legislative process, which Chair Espy just described in detail for our preamble. So legislative applications go to the Planning Commission for the first evidentiary hearing, and then it's the Planning Commission's role to make a formal recommendation to the City Commission. So this evening is a presentation of the content, discussion by the Planning Commission, and then a recommendation or a request to continue for more information. Next slide. As identified, this is a type 4 process, so the final decision is to the City Commission. We hold planning and City Commission hearings, and the number of hearings are the discretion of each hearing body. Legislative files are not subject to the 120-day quasi-judicial land use decision, so they take as long as the community needs to approve a legislative project. For disclosures for legislative, ex parte conversations are not required because this is legislative. You're making policy through the Planning and City Commission, though disclosures of conflict of interest is required if you believe you had some conflict of interest as part of this Parks Master Plan. This is the time as a Planning Commissioner to bring that up. So far, we have not received any public comment. The lion's share of the public comment was received as part of the plan creation. Next slide. So some just basic background information. The City Commission adopted the Parks Master Plan in June of 2024 after many years of public outreach. However, the final step in the process is to adopt the document as an ancillary document to the comprehensive plan. This is a really important step. This is where I put my planner hat on and say, this is the legal part where if you need to adopt master plans like this into the comprehensive plan because it gives you the legal standing for system development fees, grants, and in a sense, a legal nexus to your decisions. So just like our water and sewer and transportation system plans, the Parks Master Plan is an infrastructure and park, an element to our comprehensive plan, and it represents the city's assets. Next slide. So why is this coming to the Planning Commission? Not just because it's a legislative file for an ancillary document, but local government should plan public services in accordance with the community's needs as a whole, rather than be forced to respond to individual developments as they occur. So just like sewer master plans, water master plans, transportation master plans, we look at the body of work the city wants to do in the future, reach out to the community, provide public hearings, and kind of lay out the community's goals for future public improvement on our parks. But most importantly, the adoption of the plan establishes the long-term vision, ensures that park development aligns with the broader community goals, supports grant and other sources, usually grant Funds cannot be approved for documents that have not been adopted as an ancillary document to the comprehensive plan. So all those future grant applications that Tom will be writing, he will need to say this, that this has been adopted into the comprehensive plan. And it provides the legal support for future system development fees changes and the city's capital improvement plan. There are criteria for approval when you adopt legislative files to the comprehensive plan, and that's in chapter 17.68. Those findings are found in the staff report that's attached to your agenda, and they also show how they comply with the goals, policies, and strategies of OC 2040. Next slide. Your options this evening, after hearing the presentation by the applicant, which is our Parks Department, asking them any questions, you can recommend approval to the City Commission of the Parks Master Plan. You can request additional information from staff and continue the application to the June 9th Planning Commission meeting, or you continue the application to a different date certain. Right now, we are tentatively scheduled for a June 4th City Commission meeting if this moves forward tonight with a recommendation of approval. As the Planning Commission is a policy group for legislative files to the City Commission, you can choose to recommend approval with no comments and forward it on, but if the Planning Commission wants to provide any additional comments that may be associated with this file, I'm happy to pass those on as part of any approving motion this evening. So I'm going to hand it over to Tom Kissinger and Scott Archer, our new Parks and Rec Director, to reintroduce himself if you've not met him before. He is back in Oregon City, and we're really excited. And so I'm going to hand it over to these two gentlemen to kind of give you a background of the work that went into this plan and what they hope. But I realize there's one piece that I missed in my presentation. I apologize. Exhibit A, which is attached to the agenda, is actually something we requested our park staff to put together. That is actually the really important piece and the legal piece, and that is a map that identifies all of the city parks, as well as a brief description of each park and identify the future kind of capital improvement projects. Also integrating in the 3 concept plan areas, Park Place, Thimble Creek, and South End, to make sure that those park plan ideas are integrated into the Parks Master Plan in detail, and that will provide the city with that needed kind of nexus to apply for future grants.
And real quick, that was the part that was outside of the adopted
Correct.
documentation by the city.
And that really is needed as part of a legislative file.
Oh, yeah.
Great. Thanks for the tee up, Christina. Good evening, Chair Espy and Planning Commission. My name is Scott Archer, and I am the Parks and Recreation Director. This is day 1 of week 4 for me back in this role. I was with the city previously for 12 years, but kind of relearning, and of course we've got lots going on. So mainly I'm here in support and potentially to help answer any questions, but our Deputy Parks and Rec Director, Tom Kissinger, is gonna be the content expert this evening, as he's been helping usher this through the process with our planning staff. And so Tom's gonna give you that info, and I'm just gonna be here to potentially help out.
Great, thank you, Scott. So yes, as Scott said, my name is Tom Kissinger. I'm the Deputy Parks and Recreation Director for Oregon City. And if you want to bring up the slideshow, we will talk a little bit about the Parks Master Plan. If you want to go to the next slide, then. No worries. So this project began in April of 2022. That's really when the public-facing work began. We held a 2-year period where we did extensive public outreach that included town halls, meetings with PRAC, city commission work sessions, listening sessions, a statistically valid survey that was sent randomly to members of the community, and a community survey that was done via SurveyMonkey. All of that information and the results of that is contained within the larger adopted Parks Master Plan that you see in your packet, if you'd like to see some of those details. The final report was approved by the City Commission on June 5th, 2024. Talk a little bit about some of the Parks Master Plan highlights, one of the things that those public engagements gave us are some high priorities for investment. There's a large section in the report that talks about kind of these priority investment ratings. The highest priorities for investment here in Oregon City Parks are multi-use paved trails, multi-use unpaved trails, water access, outdoor amphitheater, indoor walking, jogging track, large community parks, open space and conservation areas, fenced dog parks, and small neighborhood parks. And those are ranked in order from most important to lowest. Those are the top high priorities, and then they go on from there. There's a large list of priorities. Again, those are based on statistically valid survey and community-wide survey data. They've blended that a little bit in order to capture both results, but that is the data that you see in the report. And you can go to the next slide. So this is really where kind of the meat and potatoes of our level of service analysis looks at each park type from pocket parks through neighborhood parks, community parks, regional parks, specialty parks. It looks at trails, the different outdoor amenities we offer, as well as the indoor amenities. And it categorizes the inventory of developed facilities that Oregon City owns and operates, whether there are other service providers in our area, that could be the school district, anybody else who operates public land, to create a total inventory. It then looks at our current service level based upon population, which in 2022 was estimated at 37,967. It then compares that to a recommended service level. That data comes from NRPA, the National Recreation and Parks Association, through their reporting methods and methodology that they report each year. So then it was revised for the local service area to create these recommended service levels for each category. And then it categorizes whether our 2022 facility standards meet the need and whether our 2032 facility standards would meet the need against a population, estimated population of 40,852. If you look on the slide, you can see that there are some areas where a need exists. That's particularly in the neighborhood park category. That's one of those where the need exists today and the need will exist in the future if we don't continue to acquire and develop parkland. According to this analysis, the additional facilities that are needed today to meet the need of the residents of Oregon City would be 23.1 acres of neighborhood parks. And in the future, in the 2032 facility standards, it would be 29 acres of parks. You can see that gap is growing as the population increases. Some of the other highlights here, trails in particular are a high need. Currently, we need to adopt about an additional mile of trail, develop an additional mile of trail here in the city to meet the level of service today, and 3 miles total by 2032. The other main outdoor amenity that's listed here is pickleball courts. If you think about our system, we have one pickleball facility at Hillendale Park. That doesn't really meet the needs of the city. We'd look to develop 2 more within the future in some park. We're not sure where that would be, but that would be one of the amenities that we would look to build. And then fenced dog parks, I'll do another highlight. So this is based on kind of total acreage. So 0.3 sites that represents the acreage that is available for dog parks. We'd look to expand. Right now, the only dog park in the city is Tyronis Woods. We'd look to expand, and we currently are exploring the option of expanding at Wesley Lynn and creating a fenced dog park in that kind of open space that's the off-leash dog area right now. And then the last kind of large need that exists from the survey is indoor aquatic space and indoor recreation space. Looking at the square foot per person and level of standards, need exists today and a need exists in the future. That need just continues to grow as the population increases. All right, and we'll go on to the next slide. So this is the kind of the dollars component of the capital improvement plan. This was compiled as part of the original report. It lists out the project, the type of project, the park type, whether it's a community or neighborhood park, Rationale for inclusion, there's some categories there, including underserved level of service, high priority ranking according to the survey data, community values. That was something that through those listening sessions, we heard a lot of feedback from the community on what they were looking for from their parks. So when you see those tend to be more community values oriented. The timing of these acquisitions or projects, and then a split out of costs. So land acquisition costs, development costs, and then the total cost. This also forms the basis of our system development charge methodology, which is also going through an update at the same time as this process. I'm not going to go through everyone individually, but certainly when we get to the questioning phase, please let me know if you have any questions. So if we continue on, keep going. So as Christina mentioned, park staff worked with planning staff to develop the applicant narrative and the associated documents for an amendment to the OC 2040 comprehensive plan. That associated document is the parks inventory that's included in your packet. That was created in collaboration with staff and the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee to implement the ideas that are outlined in the Parks Master Plan and suggest improvements to current and future parks. It represents the narrative portion of the dollar figures that you just saw in the capital improvement plan. It lists out the parks, it lists out ideas for the parks, what we would plan to do in those areas, as well as general descriptions of what a neighborhood park is, a pocket park, a community park. That being said, there's flexibility in what those mean. If you read through that inventory, you'll notice a lot of kind of soft language. It typically includes, may include, things like that. We recognize that when we're developing a new park, that's going to require some form of community engagement. The community need may be different in that specific property, and this gives us flexibility to do that. And with that, I will open it up to questions. And as Christina mentioned, we have our next steps, which is just public hearings with City Commission, TBD following the outcome of this.
Anybody on the commission have questions? I've got a couple. So for this, I was just wondering if you guys had any relationships with the schools through an IGA to use any of their campuses for park use, because I know that people use like McLaughlin School Park and other kinds of things like that. Is that at all? I didn't read the whole master plan. I wasn't sure if any of that kind of thing about those relationships were in there.
So we do not have an IGA currently to do that kind of work. That is actually one of the items that's discussed in the master plan, exploring strengthening that relationship with the
Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea if I so dare to say. And then I was also wondering, if you guys had anything, any kind of a program or any sort of kind of statements in there about land acquisition. Future land acquisition for future parks, I guess.
Yeah, so land acquisition is definitely a hot topic as part of this process. I think we all recognize Oregon City is a growing city, but doesn't have a lot of available land that meets the needs of parks. So land acquisition is going to be a key part of our strategy moving forward. If you look on both the parks inventory and the capital improvement plan list, you'll see some areas that are recommended for future acquisition. We kind of use general descriptors, things like Myers Road, Caulfield neighborhood area, or Partlow Road area. Throughout the master planning process, they developed what are called equity maps. So they looked at all of the different services and amenities that we offer, their level of service, and we used those maps to kind of pinpoint where we would need some neighborhood parks, some community parks. One of the things really looking forward as we look at larger acquisitions, if you remember, one of the large needs is larger community parks. Where do we find those? A lot of these areas like the Park Place concept area, the South End concept area. Right. We need to start looking at kind of our urban growth boundary and areas that could be in the city in the future. What can we strategically acquire in the next few years that's going to be valuable to the city 20 years from now? If you look at other systems, they create a system of kind of land banking where we're buying the land now, setting it aside for future use as the city develops around it, annexes into the city. Well, now we have an 8-acre community park that can serve that. So that is high on our list, and just anecdotally, I look at land.com all the time.
And then if I may dive into the weeds for just a minute about the procedure. I know that the city commission already adopted or accepted the Parks Master Plan. And so the comprehensive plan amendment and everything is for the formal adoption by ordinance of that plan. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
Adoption, I would say they approved the
Right,
plan as
right.
written.
They accepted it but didn't adopt it.
Yeah.
Because I think you have to, for formal adoption, you have to go through the ordinance and then the post-acknowledgement procedure through DLCD to get that all done.
Which is
And that's
this.
what we're doing now. Okay, cool. Any reason why we separated those two, or was it just easier that way, or?
No. So, just
right.
being frank too, I'm new to the city as well. I've
Sorry.
been here a year and a half.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to
All right.
get across the finish line.
All right, no worries. Just curious. All right, thanks. Any other questions?
No questions. I was just going to make a comment. I was going to echo something you said. On the IGA, I think that's really interesting. Point out also, we have Clackamas Community College, which I know has good partnership. I was really excited to see that list of the future items, particularly the Aquatic and Recreation Center, family with young children. I know that's super exciting, and we are fortunate to live close to one of our community parks and get a lot of use out of it. So thank you two for stepping in and carrying this thing forward. And if we could really push towards an aquatic and rec center in this community, I would be ecstatic. I know Paul in Lake Oswego, they just got a shiny new one.
I never like to talk about the place where I work. I am here. I think that is just such bad form. But they did a really nice job on their LORAC project, and it wouldn't be a bad idea to go by there and take a look and see what they've got. But, yeah, that's
Thank
all
you.
I'll say. Can I get a motion?
Yeah, I'll move to recommend to the City Commission approval of GLUA 25-0002 and LEG 25-0001 Parks Master Plan.
I'd second that.
Okay, approved, seconded. Can we have a roll?
Commissioner LaSalle,
Aye.
Commissioner Schlagenhofer,
Aye.
Commissioner Stoll,
Aye.
Commissioner Meinig. Aye. Commissioner Laws.
Aye.
Vice Chair Dole,
Aye.
Chair Espy.
Aye.
Thank you.
So the next, we have communications.
Yes, oh gosh, this is so, I still am not comfortable with this, I'm sorry. I spent years being told to yell into the mic, and now I have to spend years not to yell into the mic, so apologies. I have a couple of communication items passed on from Pete Walter, our planning manager. One, the climate-friendly equitable communities code amendments for the parking reforms you are working on are being forwarded to the City Commission for adoption, coming up before June 30th. Staff has had to make some minor changes to the code language to be fully consistent with state requirements. You can check in with Pete. That doesn't sound like it's anything major, but we wanted to let you know that that's moving forward. The Community Development Director's position job announcement was posted on April 16th and will remain open until filled, with the first review of applications anticipated towards the end of May. So everyone, cross your fingers. We're hoping for great applicants. Planning, for people who are interested, planning staff responded to Senate Bill 1537. That is the mandatory adjustment section that came out of a Senate bill last year that provides cities a waiver process to process. There are lists of 10 items of modification and adjustment requests that either are allowed by right through the Senate bill or with a waiver request can be done through the city's own process. So the city submitted that request this calendar year, and we're still under review under DLCD. So we'll keep you an update, but because we submitted before January 1, we are kind of frozen and are still able to use our city's adjustment and modification process. One last thing, let's see. The City Commission will be discussing local road volumes tomorrow at their work session. I'm going to be making the presentation on behalf of the Planning Department. That is something that came out of the Planning Commission last year about local volumes on local streets. And the City Commission is very interested looking at it, how it could be analyzed as part of future land use actions for safety and mitigation projects for traffic calming through subdivision and other kind of subdivision and other land division applications. However, we don't have a local street volume. So the first step is we've reached out to DKS, our transportation consultants, and they're going to be doing 20 street counts on 20 local streets all over the city. So these are streets that are not collectors or minor arterials, because we already do those. And these are streets that aren't just little dead ends. They're streets that connect to other streets. So they, you know, they have more connections. If you were interested in the streets that are being selected, you can look at tomorrow's City Commission agenda, and there'll be a map that we identify the streets. We try to find ones that represented geographical distribution that connected up with lots of other streets and kind of had different types and different forms and sizes. With that data, then we'll be able to go back to the City Commission to look at if they want to move forward to adopt a local street volume. And that would be done through the future transportation system plan amendments. But step one is you got to get data. So that's what we're presenting tomorrow, is the process to get the data. Let's see, the City Commission is going to review that and identify if there are any streets they think are missing. And we'll move forward on that traffic count, I think toward the end of May. I think the goal is to have that count before school gets out. We want to make sure we have a typical mid-week day that represents the traditional traffic movements of the city before the school gets out.
So then would you amend the transportation, the TSP to include those numbers?
Yeah, if the City Commission wants to, the question is it being done as a standalone project or with the soon-to-be updated transportation system plan? So at the point of taking the data, we're going to kind of pass this local volume project over to our Public Works Department, because they are going to be the ones managing the transportation system plan update. But we are kind of in Planning Department helping shepherding the data collection and kind of direction for the City Commission. But just want to remind everybody, there is not a legal nexus to deny a land use application because it's not meeting a local street volume. You can, however, mitigate. So if you're connecting up to a local street, and that is creating trip generations that go beyond the local street volume, then an application could be required to do on and off-site traffic calming mitigation as impacted by that. So that's kind of the end of the process, step 5. So we're kind of now at step 1, which is collect data to indicate what an optimal local street volume standard would be for the city.
Yeah, you probably need that to prioritize all your stuff for the CIP and everything too.
Yeah, and so
you
I don't know enough about
Yeah.
adopting a volume before we update the TSP. I'm not sure that sometimes these strings all get attached and it gets a little bit of Pandora's box, and it would make the most sense to adopt it with our updated TSP, which will happen the next couple of years, but there may be an ability to do it beforehand. I'm going to leave that up to our Public Works Department as we get this data and direction from City Commission for next steps.
Yeah, I would think that you'd want to, if it's not too much trouble, I know you guys are busy, but you'd want to have that sooner rather than later so that you have a little bit more legal nexus for justifying, whatever traffic improvements are needed for other, different developments and whatnot.
Yeah, safety mitigation. I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of interesting policy questions about adopting, in the sense, this is a little bit cart before the horse, but if you adopt a street volume, pick a metric, you adopt the street volume, subdivision A comes in, exceeds that, trips the ability to have proportional mitigation. Where is that mitigation? If it's off-site, do those projects have to be pre-approved and be part of a transportation system plan? So those are some of those pieces of what are the steps needed to ensure we, both legally and community engagement and community buy-in, are happy with the mitigation projects that could be triggered.
Anybody else?
I assume the second meeting for May is canceled.
That was just what Kay was going to say.
wanna make
So
sure.
have a lovely Memorial Day, and we will see you on June 9th.
Thanks for all of your great work. Thanks for being here tonight.
Yeah,
Let's
thank you.
adjourn.